The hits just keep on coming for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis following his problematic presidential launch last night.
That's right. The media making him into a punchline this Thursday afternoon. Take a look at all of these headlines. The Atlantic writing, DeSantis' launch was not the only thing that crashed.
The Independent with this headline, Ron DeSantis glitch-filled 2024 presidential campaign launch on Twitter branded disaster, while Breitbart adds Ron DeSantis roasted for meltdown disaster launch.
And social media, no surprise, is also having a field day with all of this. Meghan McCain writing, DeSantis is not Kim Kardashian on the cover of Paper magazine with a champagne glass on her rear end. No one could get Twitter Spaces to work. Everything kept crashing. And now this is all a distraction from his agenda. This is not a win. Kimberly Guilfoyle tweets, President Trump went into the lion's den and defeated CNN. Ron DeSantis read off a script and took questions from his own supporters.
All right, Joe Pinion back to talk about this. Joe, you've run for office before at a high level for U.S. Senate. What's your take on this?
Look, I think we have to remember the first law in political staffing, do no harm. Certainly, I think that this was not the launch that was envisioned. I think there are two things that happened. One, there was a video that I thought was quite effective, that laid out his agenda quite well, that was able to compel the Republican primary voter and also contrast his record with President Trump without actually breaking Reagan's law, thou shalt not attack another Republican. But I think also lost in this is this notion that they don't know what Ron DeSantis is or who they want him to be. I think it was a muddled message because they couldn't actually decide on a video or whether they wanted the Twitter Spaces. And in the end, what should have been his Barack Obama moment, to be able to stand out there with throngs of people to set forth a vision for that American comeback, instead becomes a litany of headlines, distracting from who he is, distracting from what his message is, and distracting from the Florida blueprint that he says he wants to bring to America.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And also, you know, he's a young guy. Right. He has a beautiful young family. He's a handsome guy, and he needs to use that image. But instead, we didn't even see him last night, and that seems like marketing or campaigning 101. You got to get out there. You got to have the look.
The most sacred thing you can do in life in many ways, besides getting married and having kids, is looking people in the eye and asking them for their vote. And I think that we underestimate the reason why candidate after candidate in all parties have a moment where they sit down, they look the American people in the eye and say, here is my plan for this nation. Here is why I am the best choice to be the person that can help fulfill your American ambitions. We didn't get that yesterday from Governor DeSantis. Long way to go. But again, as we talked about in the last block, the fact that he has dropped so much in the polls from being the proverbial front runner almost in November to now.
Can we bring up a poll, in fact,
poll,
while you're talking, Joe? Let's bring up that poll of Mr. Trump leading over in this one. We've seen it the other way around, not specifically these numbers, but here's one that's showing you from Emerson, Donald Trump ahead of even Joe Biden. And of course, the argument on Joe Biden's behalf, the reason Democrats have stood behind him is he can beat Donald Trump. Yet when you see polls where Trump's ahead, that's a real problem for Biden, right?
Well, look, I subscribe to that old timeless phrase, data don't vote. Right. And so I think that we can get caught up in these national polls. The hard truth is that for about 80% of the electorate, probably higher, the cake is fully baked for President Trump. Right. And so I think in many ways the ceiling is lower for President Trump. The pathway to victory can be higher. The problem that Ron DeSantis has right now is that he is relatively unknown for a lot of people. He has allowed this delayed launch to have information fill the void. He is now being defined on terms he has not chosen. They've turned it into the Don't Say Gay bill. They've turned into the Don't Say Black bill. So he has a lot of digging to do with the electorate in the primary, and he certainly has a lot of introducing to do to the broader American electorate.
All right, very well said. Joe Pinion, thanks so much.